Hello again, Air here, and we are going through the legendary musical Hamilton and how it applies to human trafficking and modern day slavery through every single song. So if you haven't joined me here, I 100% recommend going all the way back to the beginning of the play, of the musical, and starting there with me, because you're going to understand more about why we're doing this, the overall cause of fighting human trafficking, how it applies to my life as a victor of human trafficking, and really the psychology, the dynamics that bring this play to such a sentimental, just beautiful construction of how we can fight human trafficking today. All right, the 10 dual commandments. I'm going to say that again. The 10 dual commandments. Now, obviously, this song is actually taken from the 10 commandments. I'm believing that they're referencing the Bible just based off of the fact that the United States was based off of Christian values whenever it was founded by the founding fathers, like George Washington, Andrew Burr, Alexander Hamilton, and so many other accompanants in this play, the Lorens, etc. But just even higher than that, when we explore this entire song, it's almost a song of like obligations and standing up for your values, standing up for what you believe in. And sometimes that puts you in these life or death type of situations where, in this case, they're having a pistol fight. They are basically having a duel in which someone can die super easily, especially back then whenever they didn't really have the medical care that we do have today. So, if you're going to understand this song and its purpose, you really have to go back in time and think of what their reality was as far as limited health care. You never really know what's going to happen with these guns. Sometimes they misfire, and there's just so much pressure overall. They talk about trying to negotiate peace and, how, if you can talk it out, maybe the dispute will go away and no one has to die as a result. But in this particular song, they do have to go to duel and they do feel like their differences are so strong that if they don't do something about it, that ultimately it's going to cause more turmoil and more disrespect later down the road. I do find it extremely interesting, just as someone that loves the play, how it's Hamilton and Andrew Burr that say, hey, this is ridiculous, but I guess we're doing this because of what happens later on. I felt like that was a beautiful way to foreshadow the future here in the play and then in the story of Alexander Hamilton. I want to actually dive into some of the differences that cause human trafficking to almost feel like you have to abide by these 10 commandments. And I'm referencing it in three different ways. So the first thing that I was able to come up with was kind of the cultural expectations. I would feel that the United States doesn't have a strong cultural expectation to promote freedom for everybody anymore because we do have human trafficking right here in our backyard, and it tends to be a very hush hush topic rather than something that everyone is actively trying to make sure doesn't happen to their children, the ladies, the females, the men, the gents, whatever you want to call it, the children. I feel like if this was truly a cultural expectation to value freedom, that way more people would be involved in fighting human trafficking, doing awareness, making sure that this crime doesn't go unpunished, and just really pulling back the curtain. In other parts of the world, I do feel like they value and they do this a lot better, but I'm not going to say that the United States is number one, and I'm not going to say that the United States is the worst of the worst. I just feel that we could definitely do a more active job in making sure that every single household is doing something that makes sure that we're all safe as a community and society. The second thing I want to bring up is kind of the legal and the social norms. In the United States, a lot of people think that human trafficking is something that happens in a third world country. For some reason, they always bring up Africa, and they never really reference it as like something that happens here. And they never actually think it could be something that could happen to them or their daughters or their children or their nieces or nephews. They always feel like it's going to happen to somebody else, that, because they're affluent, it can't happen to them, or because, they're Caucasian, or whatever demographic you want to pull out. It feels like as a society, the social norm is it can't happen to me, it can only happen to other people. And that is a very dangerous perspective to have, because it truly can happen to every single type of race, any age, any gender, any socioeconomic background, in any place of the United States. It's not just going to be in South Dakota or New York or Tennessee or Florida or California. It literally happens in every single state. And in fact, that's why they have such a strong nonprofit. It's Truckers Against Trafficking. I've partnered with them in the past. They actually really bring up the fact that, trucks actually can transport human trafficking victims, and they can also be the eyes of the road to be able to prevent this from happening to people. So those type of social societal norms are really lacking, and the legislature actually reflects that pretty well. If you want to know the belief systems of a society, really look at their laws and what they're promoting, and then what they're trying to hide. Lastly, I'm going to go into kind of family dynamics. A lot of people, especially parents, struggle to share these concerns with their children, especially when their children turn to be of a teenager or even preteen age, and they start going outside the house more, not spending so much time, at family dinners, or maybe they were never at family dinners, and that's just kind of the way that their family dynamic was as they grew up. So these conversations aren't really happening nearly as much as they should be. And it's really causing a lot of issues, not just in, keeping your child safe, but also keeping your child safe in so many different other ways, whether it's their physical safety, their mental health, or their emotional health. So all of these different things do come in the way of almost feeling like there's these rules, these commandments that we should be obeying, or at least addressing or respecting, to be able to make sure that we don't have the issues that cause us to be in life and death situations. And that's why this particular song has my best shot. And I'm not going to give any spoiler alerts, because the next song actually tells you what happens. So there we go. That's my best shot.